Welcome, Bekah. Thank you for joining me for this YouTube series on self-publishing. I do have your official bio below, but would you mind telling us a bit about yourself in your own words?
Of course. Thanks for having me, Taryn. Love what you do, so I'm excited to be here. Let's see, where do we start? I'm a mom of two little guys, and they, have both been affected by a rare disease. So a rare disease mom, kind of stepped into that advocacy space and special needs space. It's been fun. I also I work full time. I'm the executive director of our local CASA program. Some people might not know what CASA is, but it stands for Court Appointed Special Advocates, and we advocate for the best interest of kids in foster care. So we get to serve about 600, 700 kids here locally as they go through foster care. I am a coach's wife. My husband is a track coach and is going into, I don't know, his 19th or 20th year. We lose track, but it has been really fun to do that. And just personally, I am somebody who loves to go on hikes, and I've enjoyed picking the piano back up after like a 20-year hiatus. I'm not very good, but it's fun and therapeutic. I, of course, enjoy writing and have found just a lot of joy in being able to express words that relate to other people, and that maybe they couldn't find those words, and that it was kind of ministering to their hearts in hard places, because we've been through some really hard places. So that's a little about me.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so glad you were able to join me for this. So let's just start. Can you let our viewers know the title of your book and what year you published it?
Yes. So the title of my book is Can't Steal My Joy, and it's the journey to a different kind of brave. And I published it in September of 2019, and we were just talking, it's crazy how the time has flown by.
Yeah.
I have it. Do you want me to show it?
Yeah, absolutely.
I grabbed a copy just so the flower on the front has a really cool story. So it's in the book, but yeah, Can't Steal My Joy.
Awesome. So back in 2019, hopefully you can remember those days. But what initially led you to decide to self-publish?
Well, I had been blogging for about 4 years at that point. And again, as I mentioned, just finding that my words were resonating with people in ways that were healing and helpful. And I thought they were just therapeutic for me, getting them out on a page and sharing. I started blogging back when our boys were both diagnosed with a rare disease. And that was just my way to process what we were going through in the moments, and how to, how my faith merged with that, all of those things. So I had people going, you need to write a book. You need to write a book. And I thought, that's a big undertaking, right? Like a blog post is like, okay, I can slap one of those up. That's fine. A book is a whole nother thing. And I just didn't have the capacity to do it until we moved. We wound up moving back home to Idaho. And in that process, we were living kind of temporarily with my in-laws. And so we didn't have to worry about rent. They were so gracious about that. So I didn't need to find a job right away. And this was in 2018. And I'm getting Eli, my youngest, settled into school and doing some of the things that he's got going on. And I'm like, I kind of have some time. Maybe I could figure out how to write this book. And I thought about going the traditional route. I had a few people in that world that said I would have a good proposal, that it could get taken up. But it was my story. It was something so tender and precious to me that I wanted full creative rights over it. I didn't want somebody to come in and be like, cut this part out or change this, or we don't want that cover, because I already knew, like, this cover was in my mind when I decided to write. So there's just some things I did not want to release creative control over. And so I decided to just go for it. And I started writing every day after I dropped my son off at school, and joined a writing group and found some great encouragement there. In fact, one of the gals in my little smaller circle was Sarah Ward, who's with you at Creative Commons. So typewriter. Yeah. So that's why I decided to go ahead and do the self-publishing route. I think there was some stigma still in my head at the time because I'd known some folks who self-published and lost thousands of dollars over it, and just, you know, it was not a good experience. And it was kind of like just their need to get their story on a page. And I felt really hesitant about being one of those people. But, you know, I don't know what other questions you might have, so I don't want to share the whole story yet. But I just found it to unfold in a really beautiful way, into a product that surprises people that it was self-published because of that stigma.
Yeah, absolutely. I love getting to help people publish books that don't look self-published.
Yes.
Right?
Definitely.
Because, you know, you've spent all this time crafting your words, and you don't want somebody to stop short of actually reading the book by looking at it and going, oh, this is, you know, low quality,
Yes.
right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So what parts of that whole process did you enjoy or were life-giving to you?
Oh, wow. Well, I loved the collaboration of it. So people probably think like self-publishing, you're doing it by yourself. You don't have this team of like marketers, whatever, around you. And I just found that there were people in my circle who could do some things really well that I had no idea how to do, who wanted to jump on this project and be part of it. And it was so fun to dream up the cover with my friend Jessica, and she's just an amazing graphic designer, and she has done more book covers since then, which is really cool. But dream up this cover with her, and of an editor friend of mine who had previously published wanted to just help make this project beautiful, and so she came in and was doing edits. And I don't know, I just watched it become my own little thing. And then like as people came in, like it just bloomed into this really beautiful project that I could not have done by myself. And so you know, I think there was still some trepidation when I'd get those edits back. Like, I don't really want to open that email. What if she hates it? Like, what if it was terrible? But each time, and I had some, oh, I forget what they're called, but like pre-published readers, you know, the people who come in and kind of read through the script or the book and let you know what needs to be clarified or whatever, what resonates. As each of those people joined, I just watched it become an even more beautiful project, which was so appropriate because the story is it is basically a memoir, about, you know, going through really dark places with our boys and losing our oldest son and journeying the rare disease life in a clinical trial with our youngest, and just where we found joy in these really broken places, and redefining brave. And in our story, like it had to be in community. We could not have survived without doing life with people and letting people come in and pour into us. And so the book, you know, just the way the book came together was very paralleled to our story. So.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I think, you know, a lot of the stories I've heard just in getting to interview people, and then even outside of that, is it seems to be that the people who get to experience that collaboration in the process seem to enjoy it that much more, right? It's not this solo endeavor anymore, because the writing part can feel really lonely. And then when you go to take those additional steps, bringing people along, it suddenly doesn't feel so lonely, and you're doing it in community and you have that collaboration. And yeah, it's almost like it kind of has a life of its own, and you get to be sort of along for the ride. Like, yes, you have a lot of creative control and all of that, but it's like you get to see this thing, like you said, bloom sort of before your eyes with the help of other people, which is, yeah, so beautiful.
It was wonderful. And I will say it was interesting because, you know, I'm kind of like, okay, we have no money going into this to make this project happen. Like, this has to be done on a dime, like very cheap, if not free. Like, I'm just going to figure out how to do all this myself. And I will preface this with saying my editor and my cover designer, like they were so passionate about our story and our project, they jumped on and did this for free. And later, the success of the book was enough that I could go back and pay them. They did not ask for that, but it was really cool to do that. But when I was getting to the interior formatting of this baby, oh my goodness, there was so much to that. And I'm like, no, I'm gonna figure this out. And then I kept hearing about you. And I remember reaching out, and we chatted about it. And then I thought, no, I can save the money. I can do it. I can do it myself. And I was just having like anxiety over it and losing sleep. And when I was finally like, you know what? I think Taryn just needs to do this piece of it. And you took it and you just made it such a beautiful outline inside the book. And I don't regret for a minute spending that money, because I would never have been able to make it look like that. I'm pretty sure that my format would have never even uploaded to Amazon, because it would have been like error. So there's places where it is so worth taking the risk and spending that money.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And each person is going to find different pieces of that, right? That they're,
Yes.
really like, I need to delegate this for my own sanity and the quality of the book, right?
Absolutely. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Awesome. So maybe you've kind of touched on it a little bit already, but what challenges did you face in this whole process, and how did you overcome those?
Yeah. Well, I would say, for me, I had written for a long time, but not consistently. And I know this is something every writer deals with, which is just that consistency when you aren't feeling the move of, whatever that inspiration, to sit down and like write out something really beautiful. It was that daily kind of discipline to sit down and write. And I'm so grateful I found that. And it was some things that I did to find that, but it was hard. There were some days where I'm sitting there and I could only get like 200 words out. That even maybe were okay, but like probably not high quality. And learning to be okay with that, that was that day's effort. And the next day I would come back again with a fresh mind and try again. But that consistency, I actually saw the progress. It wasn't just like, oh, I have this book I'm working on that I maybe haven't opened the file in a month, and I really feel guilty about that because I should be working on it better. But like every day I dropped my son off at school, and I'd have a block of about 3 hours that I could sit down. The house was quiet, everybody was at work, and I'd just start writing. And I know not all of it. I mean, today I would not have that kind of space. So if I wanted to write another book, and I do, but I've got to figure out where that is. But I'd grab my coconut LaCroix. I don't know why that became my writing drink, my coconut LaCroix, and I'd sit down and write. But I will say probably the hardest part about all of that was actually the content that I was writing about, because it was our story. And that time that I was writing, I am not a napper, but I had to take some naps during the day. I was crying as I was writing. I mean, it was very emotionally exhausting, pulling it all back out, and reflecting on it, and in some healing ways and some ways that just felt really heavy. So there was a lot of moments of, do I really want to put this out in the world? Do I really want people to hear these like inner thoughts of mine and experiences? But ultimately the answer was like a very vulnerable but authentic yes, because the world needs more of this kind of story, because we run from pain and we don't like to acknowledge it. But when we can see, I just think we grow closer, and we actually grow when we are in our pain and we are facing it together. So anyway, so it was like, okay, I'm going through all these really deep, strong emotions, writing it back out. But it was like a redemptive step for me to get it out into the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, your honesty and your vulnerability, I think, is what has helped that story resonate with people, regardless of if they can, relate to the specifics, right, of your story. It's that common thread of pain and grief and looking at all of that head on that is so needed. And yeah, so your book is such a beautiful gift.
Yeah, thank you. That's what I say all the time is we all go through things, or your story doesn't look the same as mine, but there's some kind of common denominator in pain that we can all relate to. Yeah. And to find that joy and that beauty in those dark spaces, like that's available to all of us.
Yeah, so. Absolutely. Yeah. Good.
Mhm.
So, is there anything that you would change about your self-publishing journey?
Oh, good question. What would I change? I don't think I would change anything about the book. I think it was what it needed to be. But I will say about the process and just my unawareness of this, the after the after publishing effect, and
Mm.
you just dive, like you kind of come down off this high.
Mm.
And for me, it was a mix of like, oh no, what did I just do? I put that out in the world, and maybe reading some of those hard stories is actually going to do people more harm than good.
Mm.
And I started to really second guess some of that. Um, and I've gotten to the point where I'm very comfortable now. When you first get your book out, you want everybody to read it. Like, you just read it. It's my book. And I've gotten very comfortable now when people say, like, I picked it up and I read the first few chapters and I had to put it down for a little while. It's just not the right book for me right now. And I'm like, absolutely. Like,
Mm.
you read it when you're ready, because that's when you're going to need those words, not before you're ready. So I've become more comfortable with that. But yeah, that kind of depressive like fall after publishing isn't really talked about, or at least it wasn't in the circles I was a part of. And it took me back a little bit, like just kind of, you know, made me question, why did I do that? Maybe I shouldn't have done it. Why do I feel this way? But I heard, as I shared that with other writers, how normal that was,
Mm.
to have this kind of high, this build up with your book launch and all the things you're doing, and you publish, and people are all talking about it, and then you just kind of come down, and I think it's very natural. And so I've learned, I haven't published another book since, but similar kinds of things in my life where it's big momentum up. I've learned to kind of give myself some quiet space, disconnecting from social media, um, just kind of giving myself that space to just be with my family, be a normal life, like doing the mundane things, and take a break from needing to feel like I'm engaging and connecting and trying to make sure everybody's happy, like
Yeah.
with getting a piece of me in some way. So
Yeah. Oh, thank you for articulating that, because I think that is a very common thing. And I don't know if I've heard people really voice it, right? Because
mm,
it probably feels like such a, oh, it's only me who experiences this thing.
right, right.
Yeah.
And it was so helpful to be in a little community. I mean, it was me and three or four other writers. Like, we'd Marco Polo back and forth all the time. And we all launched all our first books, like within a few months of each other.
Mm.
And so we were kind of experiencing this together. And so we were able to work through it together.
Yeah.
So I would encourage that, like, don't do it alone.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's such good advice, just to have that community. And then, even as you said before, just disconnecting and allowing yourself that space afterwards, and not feeling like you have to be connected, right? You need to give yourself some time just to be for a little bit and kind of come
Exactly.
out of that intense, season of launching.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Amazing. So, what benefits would you say you've experienced by self-publishing your book?
Well, I have definitely been able to get into spaces and share hope and joy with people I never would have otherwise. It's been really fun. Still to this day, I'm selling copies monthly, and we have, I just get these random messages from people that are explaining their story and how this book has really impacted them and helped give them a new perspective for how to face circumstances we can't control. And that has been so beautiful for me, as we continue to journey a really hard road with our younger son, and processing just, not having Titus, our oldest, here with us. Those are like little redemptive stepping stones for me. And also, I've been able to have quite a few speaking opportunities.
Mm.
This book really launched me into something that I was not comfortable with before. I was terrified of getting up in front of people and speaking.
Mm.
And I still don't really understand why people think writers are naturally speakers, because that's just not a thing. Like, across the board, that's not like a consistent thing. But I had people, because they so resonated with my words, like ask me to come do, women's retreats or speak at their church on Sundays. MOPS groups, like with other moms, things like that. And I just was like, okay, I'm talking about this journey to a different kind of brave. Like, I'm going to step into this space and see what's there. And there was so much growth. There's a lot of opportunity for me to share the hope that I'm experiencing, which interestingly actually bolsters my hope, right? Like when I get to talk about it. And so that's been really fun. I've enjoyed that. I also have loved being able to do, little bits of writing for other writers on their blogs or on magazines, and got to be a contributor to a couple of magazines for a few years before I needed to pull back. So it really opened up quite a few opportunities, collaborative opportunities in the writing world, speaking opportunities, and really just for me, a chance to help people see that there's a different way forward in dark places and hopelessness and anxiety. There's actually joy to be found. And that's what gets me every time, is just helping people find life there.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So great. So for those watching who are maybe just considering self-publishing, what would you share with them?
I would say just take the next step. Don't feel like you have to swallow the whole project at once. For me, it looked like sitting down and just going, okay, like I'm going to start with a rough outline. What would I do with this story if it were to become a book? And I just created a rough outline. And I will say that outline changed as I wrote, right? Like it all can change. It doesn't have to be set in stone to begin. And so just start writing. For me, it was that block of time. I would just sit down and whatever I could get out, that's what I did that day. And then the next day you do some more, and then you start to see it build into something. And so take it one, just to take the next step. And then think about your people. Who do you have around you who maybe could help encourage you, be part of the project in some way, keep you accountable? Any of that kind of stuff is helpful, because we are not supposed to do life alone in any capacity. We're meant to do it together. So the more you can bring in people around you, I think the better.
Amazing. That's such encouraging advice. Well, thank you, Bekah, again for joining me. I know people are going to find this helpful, and I think those who have gone through the journey already are really going to resonate with a lot of what you've shared, and just feel encouraged that they're not alone in some of these experiences. And bringing people in that sense of community have been a pretty common thread in all of our interviews so far. And
Awesome.
I love just continuing to hear that. And it is just so special when we can do that. So for those of you watching, check out Bekah's bio and link to her book below. Subscribe to our channel and leave a comment and let us know what stood out to you and if you resonate with what Bekah shared today. Just grateful for Bekah joining, and for those of you taking the time to watch. So thank you all, and we'll see you for the next story.
Yay, thank you.